All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Start is Near podcast, episode number 3. And we were talking a moment ago about articulating some basic creative agreements. I just want to check and make sure James is here. James, are you strapped in, ready to go?
Yeah, ready and waiting.
Okay, great.
Thanks. Hi all.
Hey. So the main creative agreement that I would propose to the group is that we practice kindness and generosity with each other, and good listening and common decency and all those good things. And we had some learning over the past week on that front, and some in-depth conversations that I had kind of one-on-one because I didn't want to, actually three of us got together and talked, but I don't even want to name names or talk about that, but just to say that we've been working on it. And I think we've covered some really good ground in the past week. And one of the topics that's been proposed in terms of creative agreements is that we limit the amount of time that each of us speaks, or holds the talking feather, to a couple of minutes or so. I would say that's something we can think about and even practice for periods of time. But like, for example, Brett was on a roll last week, which I wouldn't have paused for anything, right? And so I'm very hesitant to impose a creative agreement that would restrict, say, Brett's flow or James's flow or anything like that, unless we said, hey, for the next 30 minutes, let's kind of do it glass bead style, where each of us talks for a minute and says it concisely. And with that, I'm going to pass the feather to Victor.
Cool. Yeah. Thank you for leading off with that because I think when we come together in groups like this is a recurring theme, by the way, um, that that will have resonance with what's being spoken, or we'll have something come up. I think having those kind of agreements makes a whole lot of sense. Um, I also like wanted to take just a second to say okay, what I've been tending to do when I have something to say, it's well, I just did it. I put up my hand, right? So I think that's a um that's an invitation for us all to use that feature or just put a hand up. Um I it I notice also that um if I am not feeling particularly, or rather in cases where one does not feel particularly resonant, or where we want to gently remind one another to bring things to a close. I've seen people kind of do the sort of, you know, wrap it up sort of thing. These kind of things are can be used gently and wisely. Um, there's just some suggestions.
I'll just build on that by saying I'm pretty much open to the both things. I certainly don't want to restrict it, but I just I guess my contribution to the stone soup is it's like only one rule in a sense. It's figure out in your own way how to be mindful. Like it looks different at different times under different contexts. So I'm assuming that we're going to attract and hang out with people that are generally generous, like generally cool, and also for me generally also rabble rousers and blunt people and honest people, and I don't want to lose any of them. So it's more like mindfulness, curiosity, like these kind of adjectives I think of, and we should be fine because we have good intentions coming into it with this general agreement to just be mindful. And if there was any other way to say it, pretend we're in a band during this time, right? Like bands, they're not one man shows, which are cool, by the way. So I have no problem with a one man show. But in a case where there's a group of us, it's like being in a band. And no one ever wants to hear one instrument for 7 hours or whatever. So I don't like saying to people to wrap it up, or I'd be more precise, Victor, and say, when I do this, it means I would like you to wrap it up. Because maybe it's not time to wrap it up. You know what I mean? Like, who's to say? But if someone in the band is starting to think, maybe I'd like this groove to be, at least let it be known, right? To the band, like that I'm feeling this, I'm feeling tension, or I'm feeling bored. And that could just be an implicit thing we all start practicing in our own self. So when we see someone do this or this, we all know that they mean like there's no objective like ruler coming down the state. It's just, but I actually am, and I'm part of the group. So let it be known. And then let's see what happens. Like, let's see how that person responds, basically. Because we want to be in an experiment too, you know, at the same time. Like, it's like improv to me. I don't want to know we're all going to be nice to each other all the time for the sake of being nice. I want to know we're going to evolve together. Like, yeah. And that sometimes looks differently than it, like, there has to be some tension, which can be creative. And so, yeah, thanks.
Well, welcome, Mike. The teacher is back in the room. I made the comment.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. We can
Yep,
hear
we
you.
do.
Marco, you got your hand raised. Go.
Yeah, I'm just going to jump in real quick with the it's been this year is the fourth Enlightening Our Way Together with the indigenous from all the Americas, you know, as part of a prophecy leading the world back into saving ourselves from ourselves, with them, you know, providing their wisdom and their plant medicine and their magic to help the rest of the world realize we're all indigenous and we're all part of one human family. And we practice talking circles twice a day, indigenous talking circles. And the basic principles there are everyone gets a turn, everyone has an opportunity to talk. Passing your turn and being silent in your turn is acceptable. Passing your time on so that the next person can talk is acceptable. But when you know, rather than be a pause when you're finished and people wondering, we say we are complete, and I pass the feather. And then you may choose to pass the feather to another person, or sometimes when you're in a circle, like in Zoom, we tend to choose a person to pass it to next. And when you're in a circle, it just becomes automatic, but Zoom doesn't quite lend to the circle. So just those two things. It's like saying you're complete when you're complete, to make use of the time, and maybe perhaps passing on, or just say I passed the feather. So just it was really valuable for me this week to be in the talking circles that I was in, to get those refreshers. And there is a talking circle course where you can become a certified talking circle facilitator coming up here soon through Four Worlds International. And I'll get you guys a link to that in an email or something so you can explore that as you wish. And with that, I'm complete and I pass it back.
I like that, Marco. Okay, so we obviously haven't started recording yet, or maybe we have, but Jamin, do you want to take us away?
Yeah, we've started recording. We launched it.
Excellent.
And we're broadcasting as far as I know. I hope we are. And so, yeah, we were just talking about creative agreements for a little bit. And I think we're good on that. I think we've said what we needed to say. As far as I'm concerned, I think I'm provisionally complete. And of course, we can always revisit whenever we need to, even in the middle of a podcast, because it's important stuff. And Mike, why don't you take it away? I mean, I just love it when you lead. That's my proposal. Passing the feather.
Well, I didn't get a chance last week to. I've told you before, Jamin, but one of my sons had an altercation at school. Not even an altercation. There was something at school that happened, and I had to address that right as we got started. So I'm not sure where we went on CSI last week. I think that Brett's already reading my brain. He doesn't have to speak to it directly, but what you and I and Marco and Brett and Victor in our own way, whether they realize that or not, something that's been on my mind is how, and a lot of you guys have been working on this much longer than I have. How do we integrate these not disparate, but just groups that they have their own kind of cadence to them, or their own kind of musical language, perhaps, And how do we kind of integrate those as best as possible, which ultimately leads back to CSI. But yeah, just to throw that out there to start, that's an easy one. Not an easy one. I don't expect anyone to have easy answers, but that's something we can talk about for sure.
Yo, I've just got a new nickname for myself. Now, I know that's super presumptuous and maybe so uncool to give yourself a nickname, but I'm gonna fucking go for it. Huh? And this is in honor of you, Matt, or Michael, for those of us watching on TV, who now has turned into a combination of Lex Fridman and a Trump supporter. I always think that hat, I only say that because I always think that hat says the MAGA thing. For some reason, it reminds me of that. I could care less about all the others. It just reminds me of the
Just
MAGA
a
hat.
shout out to Baker. If people actually understood the hat, so it's again, who are the Dunyan is it's not a P, it's a Y, but who are the Dunyan is a quote from Baker. And it just basically means like who has the truth or what is the truth. But yeah, it's kind of yeah, I think if anyone understood it at a MAGA rally, I might be thrown out, or they would be like, oh, he's got the truth. Go on, Brett.
So, my nickname is Easy B. And that's when I'm pontificating about how easy the answers are, actually, like you were saying, Mike. Like, maybe no one has, I think you have answers to how those of us who are called support the larger ecosystem, whatever word you want to use, to co-create more, whatever, for lack of, to keep it simple for the moment. But it is a specific calling or function to me compared to like some people want to build cars that are electric, right? Some people want to build homes. Some people want to take care of kids. Some people want to make movies. And then there's also some of us who part of like what we love to do is to help integrate, you might say, like you were saying. And I think it is going to become easier and easier. And it's only because there's nothing we're doing. Like it's not coming from any kind of old-fashioned top-down thing or like umbrella thing. It's coming from like this is our passion. This is what we care about. So we're building technologies and innovations and systems and communities that are rallying around collective superintelligence, co-creation, conscious evolution. So it's a natural output that we would start building, as Bucky called it, living room, which is the antidote to weaponry. So yeah, I'm excited, and I'm gonna say it's gonna be easy. This whole thing is gonna be easy. So when I'm in that space, I'm Easy B. Who was Easy E part of? Which hip hop rap was Easy E? Was I don't remember. Was
NWA, yo.
NWA, my friend.
NWA,
Sorry, Victor,
right? Yeah, yeah. So Easy B needs a band like NWA. It's like, so you guys got to come up with my band for Easy B. Yeah, I'll leave that to you guys.
I could throw out a couple, but I'm not really sure I want to right now. Victor, if you want to go ahead, or Jamin.
CWA, Creators with Attitude. I don't know.
There you go. See, you knew something with that, or co-creators with attitude.
Yeah, yeah.
Jamin, go ahead, please, if you're ready.
Well, what I have to say right now is I think the basic minimum viable product of collective superintelligence, I'm going to step out on a limb and say that it's obvious, and I'll say more what I mean by that. The obvious minimum viable product, and for me, the obvious next step, and I could be wrong, happy to be proven wrong, is that groups like this that are coming together where at least part of their intention is collective superintelligence, that we declare to the universe, and let's find the mechanism for making such a declaration. We declare to the universe that we declare to be part of an emergent, open source universe of transformational conversations where there is openness for cross-pollination. We're open to other people coming here and, being a part of what we're doing. And we're open to going to other people's rooms and visiting there and co-creating with them there in that space. Welcome back, Gavin. How you doing? Good to see you. And we're live and recording and all that good stuff. And that this, I came up with an acronym which I think I shared with you all earlier, which is hashtag Dutch42, standing for the decentralized universe of transformational conversations that are hyperlinked. Now, the hyperlinkage, the cross-pollination and the hyperlinkage are not exactly one and the same, because there are many ways to hyperlink other than cross-pollination, but they're part of the same. And 42 being a stand-in, a somewhat comical stand-in. What's wrong with a bit of humor? I ask Brett facetiously, because he's always introducing humor into stuff, which is beautiful, a great lubricant. 42 being a temporary placeholder for the telos of where we want to get to. And of course, from the Hitchhiker's Guide, 42, the answer to the ultimate question of life, the universe, and everything. And with that, I pass the feather. Thank you.
It's interesting that you bring that up too, Jamin, because Marco and I were talking a little bit beforehand, but we are talking about learning to ask the question, right? Which is the kind of, you have to read the sequels to Hitchhiker's Guide because he wrote, more than one book. But yeah, it's then becomes, what is the question? For our stuff here, I really do think that this is a time space crux that we can kind of, I mean, I know that a lot of you have done work in these areas over time, but once again, we have the opportunity to kind of proof of concept in terms of integration and then how we disproportionately move forward. I kind of, the spirit of Bobby is in the room too, like Bobby Azarian, but the idea of like, geological kind of trajectory, like we've talked about this before. I'm just kind of throwing out stuff. Anyone can take it at any time, but the idea being that growing forward together, as we've talked about, involves how do we bring groups that maybe are not unaligned but misaligned perhaps together, and what are perhaps effective strategies to do this. I know we're kind of couching this in the context of CSI, but what are our strategies that will make that happen? Not make it happen, but that we can honor the process of like facilitation, I suppose. Victor, you do have your mic open, so I'm just going to go for the unmuted as the sacrificial lambs here. Go ahead, Jamin.
Oh, no. Victor's up next. I'm just raising my hand, but no hurry.
Cool. Yeah. I'm liking this. I I appreciate the provocation there, Jamin, and the reflection, Mike. So yeah. So what are we talking about when we're talking about collective superintelligence? I think you shared like, oh yeah, open source, absolutely, inclusive, and by the way, like it's an open invitation to those that feel called to contribute and help not only uh, participate in the transformational conversations that are open to being transformed through them and that are open to like contributing to building what's emerging, right? That's I think that's beautiful. um so the openness to cross pollination, sure. like I'm aware that like collective superintelligence is sort of like necessarily bigger than any of us, necessarily bigger than any one like Zoom room, necessarily bigger than like it's the thing that's greater than the sum of its parts, and like is networked and integrated. Uh, it's yeah, and like so I love that provocation, that kind of like pointer towards what it is. And like um what I'm coming in with is like, hell yeah. So what does it look like that it should get bigger than this room? And like what are the actions that we need to take together, like necessarily like within this space that we share together and like outside of this space. This is like a recurring thing. There's like a timeliness to it. And we can I don't know, set intentions for like I'm thinking something like that, like you know, not only setting intentions you know, for what to like what next week looks like, um, but also like starting to work together as a group, you know, to manifest, you know, the intentions that we set. And I'm complete and releasing
No,
the feather.
understood, Victor. Marco, I don't know if you are able to jump in here, but it kind of goes back to what we were talking about before. Maybe you didn't catch the tail end of what Victor said, and that's okay. I'll pass the feather another way, if you like. But
Yeah, I think I did miss just the tail end of it because I had to address something.
Jamin's got his hand up. It's okay, Marco.
Yeah.
He'll take us
Go
back
ahead,
to
Jim.
yeah.
Yeah, Marco's been missing tail all his life, so that's no big, nothing new for him. Anyway, so I want to comment that so Mike, you talked about groups being misaligned. I think misalignment is the essence of the decentralized collective superintelligence. Victor, you mentioned open source and inclusive. That's what I'm talking about. Like open, open, open. No one here. There's
Just to frame that
yeah.
and bring Marco back into Jamin, not to interrupt, but Marco and I were talking about diversity being our strength, right? So carry on though. You hit on something here.
Yeah. And I think this is where less is more, and we really need to boil it down because I think humanity's collective misfiring on collective superintelligence has stemmed from what Daniel Pinchbeck calls the possession trance, capitalism, ego, hoarding, and like you've got a whole bunch of groups out there, the Bloc Party included, going back to our founding, who basically said, "Aha, we've got it. Everybody come to to our place, and we'll make collective superintelligence happen." There's a joke that I articulated to you, Mike, some days ago that the top 100 leaders in collective superintelligence were all asked the same question. What is missing? What needs to happen in order for collective superintelligence to really take off? And all 100 answered with the exact same answer. Wow, great. What was the answer? The answer was the world should come to the party at my place. And then because we've got the best. And so then it becomes this competition, right? This knockdown, drag out competition between collective superintelligences, which reminds me of an Onion comic strip thing I saw where it was like, or a little segment where there are these Buddhists who are competing to see who's the most transformed and transcendental, and they're like talking shit about each other and everything. And so, the very fact of competition misses the point. And so what can we do to boil it down to take the competition out? And I think decentralized, open source, and inclusive are part of it. And also one element of utopia, which is no place, that there is no single place. There is no single group that says, we are the masters of collective superintelligence. We're the troll under the bridge who you need to pay if you want to cross into the realm of collective superintelligence. So, how can we do that? I've got some more specific thoughts on that, but first I'm going to pass the feather and just leave it open in general like that. Thanks.
I was gonna say, whoever wants to take this, it's about to be 3:33 right now here, and Jamin, I think that you kind of have given us some room to hash this out because that kind of is the question, right? The Incubus has an album called If Not Who, When, I think it is, or whatever. But anyways, it's the idea of like, if not who, and if not when, whatever. But Brett, you've got me, I think.
Before we continue on this path, I just want to ask everyone real quick, or anyone that has an opinion. Do you think it's the same basic sentiment, like two halves of one and six dozen, whatever that half dozen of the other, to say no one is the center, like Jamin was just saying, no one is the center, no one's the master. What if we were believing that everyone and every group was the center and the master of their domain? I'm wondering if those two statements are like mirror opposites or not. Like my sense is they're not. Like it's one way to look at things and another way to look at things. And I don't think they are actually. And for me, I have a premise personally of going beyond decentralization into omni-centralization. Now, there is such a thing as saying like when there's no center, the center's everywhere, right? So that's the other aspect of what you could say, like if there's no masters, there's masters everywhere, right? I guess you could say that, but I want to throw that in there as like, I don't want to only walk down the side of the street where like this sentiment is no one is control and no one's in it, because fuck that. I actually am a master. Like I am actually a master of my domain. It's like I actually am fucking awesome, just like everyone else. And I don't want to feel like I have to like lower my light or diffuse. You know, decentralization in many ways is about a diffusion of power, not an embracing and sharing of power. Like by the definition in the dictionary, decentralization might say taking away from the center, but energetically and sociologically, a big percentage of the decentralized movement, not the infrastructure of like whatever Ethereum, which is a decentralized infrastructure, but the behavior is quite often a diffusion of power rather than, yeah, again, embracing that everyone is the master of a universe and that we're all centers of power. And gosh forbid if we could all co-create as masters of a node, as centers, that would be wonderful too. And there's just something about that narrative, or just to share a piece of myself that I'm bringing to the table. Like that's how I see the world when I have to use words to describe what's happening. Otherwise, I'm happy to be silent. But when we're using these kind of concepts and terms, that's how I prefer to look at it. And one last piece, and I know I've gone on for a while, but I want to throw this into the furthering of the conversation. So, Jamin, when you describe like what how you were saying, right? Like an open source, inclusive set of conversations, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I think we all kind of see this elephant, the famous elephant, right? Differently. And what I've learned about co-creation is that the Vesica Pisces between us is where we all expand each other's centers. We don't like come together homogeneously or try to like, again, you're out of alignment or this is the right thing to do. It's like, it's kind of like the flower of life or maybe symbiosis with cells. Like, you know, it keeps creating like where all of these circles are kind of expanding each other through the Vesica rather than being the board or whatever you want to call it. And the reason I'm sharing that is like, for instance, I don't believe in open source as an open, as an all, like as an automatic default position. Like now, if I'm clear about what you're going to do, Jamin, like what you're creating, I might say, yes, that to me is a good, this is a good time to open source something, right? I'm not actually an open source fan under all conditions, under any like dynamics, like I'm some kind of, like that's my gig. And I also believe many people jump to that and I don't even know what they're talking about. I'm like, do they really believe that? Or they're just using that word? What does it mean? Like, are you talking about a license? Are you talking about a way of being? Are you just talking about like the utopian dream where there's no anything because there's nothing to really worry about? Everything can be open source. It's like, it doesn't really matter when it doesn't feel like that in the world we live in. Even creatively for me, by the way. So it's a longer story, but what I mean is, I see the elephant as that emergent thing that's different from and unpredictable from the sum of its parts. Like that to me what the elephant is. So I can serve, Jamin, your vision of doing an open source set of conversations, like help you expand them. And like the same for everybody, we help each other expand. So I see what we're doing from a different angle. Like, and it's not about curating conversations. It's about facilitating co-creation at mass, whatever, which everyone, we all agree with each other's pieces, but I think we have different pieces. So I think it's nice to be careful when we're talking about like what we're doing, like what is the what. I don't think there's ever one thing. I think it's like, what do we want to do with the thing that's happening here? Like, what do each one of us want to channel with that which is manifesting here? So that's how I'm approaching the conversation. I'm like, yes, and to everyone I've heard. Like, yes, and it could be an open source inclusive conversation. Like, yes, and we'll do this and this and this. And it's because I can't help myself. I'm literally always in integration mode. It's like a human synergy engine. Like I'm not thinking of my own need, except my need is to synergize. So it's like a recursive, like a Godelian Bach thing for me. It's like, yes, I have a dogma, but my dogma is synergy. Thank you. I'm good. I'm complete. Pass it on to Madness.
Well, I was just gonna say, sometime during there, James did give you a thumbs up. I'm curious if he wanted to weigh in on this.
Yeah, well, I mean, I agree. It was something that Brett said last week when we kind of finished off the actual recording on the podcast, but we were talking in the breakout room afterwards or in the main room, and Brett was on about like this should be something for that everyone should be able in a world where everyone should be able to be what they want to be what they're capable of being, what they're born to be. Everyone's born with a gift, so to speak. But Brett put it, I can't put it in the words that he put it, no, but that you get to be in a world where we all want to be, can be what we want to be, and live our lives the way we want to be, but yet somehow we're all contributing to the whole, and that it's all work. You kind of framed it as a miracle basically last week, like. But I agree, yeah, 100%, and that what Brett is saying. Like.
I love it. Marco, you raised your heart too. Did you kind of get where I was going from our previous conversation there?
Yeah, I think so. It's and I'm just gonna put a warning out there right now. I'm in a strange mood today. I've been intermittently being drawn back connected into my connection with plant medicine from the journeys I've done recently, and I'm kind of in a space where everything's coming at me, like everything everywhere all at the same time. So I may ramble a bit today, and I'll try not to do that. But as far as that being the
Take
center
your
of
time, Marco.
things,
Take your time.
being the center of things, and sometimes we are and sometimes we're not. I used to have this practice where when I was feeling my ego come in, I would imagine a map of the universe, and I would, look, kind of say, okay, here's uh, here's me. I'm this tiny little speck right down here in this even smaller part of the universe. It's like I'm this tiny speck that doesn't even show up. But for those that are hearing my voice and experiencing my physical space around me, sometimes I am the center. But in the grand scheme, I'm this little part of this immense universe, so immense that probably I'm sure my mind hasn't even grasped it all yet, because I keep finding myself understanding my place in a different way. But the most important thing is we're part of a whole that includes all of us. And communication, language is so inefficient to communicate the things we want right now. And we talked about building a vocabulary and a lexicon that helps us do that better. And so yeah, I really get what you were saying. I didn't just get the words you said, Brett, and what you were trying to say. I'm feeling it. Okay. I'm feeling you, brother. So, and that's what I want to say. I feel you all right now, and I'm in a particularly receptive mood for that. So, hopefully I won't ramble too much. And with that, I'm going to be complete for now and pass the feather.
Thank you, Marco. Brett, I don't know if you want to respond or not. Go ahead, please.
I just say thank you for the kind words, and I'm happy. I'm happy you're in a fun, inquisitive, playful, confused, whatever word you want to use space. I think it's quite endearing. So rock your socks off and keep up the good work, dude.
Jamin, go ahead, my friend. Or go ahead, yeah. No, Marco, if you want to go first, go ahead and then pass it to Jamin.
Yeah, I'm complete. I pass the feather to Jamie.
Great, thanks. And by the way, when I raise my hand, here's what that doesn't mean. It doesn't mean, hey, whoever's talking, please wrap it up. I've got something urgent. It's just like, hey, whenever Mike doesn't have anyone else to pass it to, go ahead and pass it to me. I'm just going to screen share real quick. So I'm now modifying the acronym I was talking about earlier, Dutch 42, which could be used as a hashtag, decentralized universe of transformational conversations, which are each centralized unto themselves, per Brett's comments. I mean, this is a centralized conversation. There's creative agreements, people are invited, it's very centralized. And so these conversations, which are hyperlinked and which roughly aim toward, some sort of a telos or perhaps multiple teloi. I always think of the word toilet when I see teloi, but anyway, 42, okay? Some sort of at least groping for a telos. And so one way to think about this is, imagine that we are here and we're kind of a vector pointing in this direction, and that vector is called Dutch 42. And since it's a hashtag, nobody can own it. Everyone's welcome to use it. And then if other conversations say, yeah, we too, yeah, we're hip with this whole Dutch 42 thing, great. And let's say some other conversations emerge and say, listen, we disagree with that Dutch 42. We've got our own telos and our own way of looking at the world. Great, beautiful. And so what's emergent here is therefore a universe of conversations. Nobody owns the universe. Each group owns their own shit. It owns their own conversation, their own telos, their own vector. So Dutch 42 could be our way of introducing ourselves to the universe. Hello, universe. We exist. We're here. This is us. And, if you don't like it, fuck you and come up with your own telos. So we don't have to be in some weird artificial harmony where everyone paints their hair blue and becomes woke and, tries to fit into some whatever. No, we're just doing our thing, but we recognize that we're part of a universe. And so in a way, it's kind of like the shift in philosophy from when humanity went from organized religions that said, oh, the world is everything and this is how it's supposed to be and all that, and the universe is kind of there as a backdrop for this main stage called planet Earth. No. The kind of Carl Sagan-like shift and SETI-like shift that says, hey, we're part of this much bigger thing, and we're really happy to be here, and we'd really love to talk to the rest of you. Passing the feather.
Gavin, I feel like you're reading my brain already, so go ahead when you're ready, my friend.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm hearing you correctly, Javen, you're describing the process of enlightenment and discovering one's true nature. You can put that as Dutch 42, or you can say consciousness is everything, or you can say I am God, or whatever. But it's all the same as far as I can tell, in my experience anyway.
How do we gift that fire to others, Gavin? Or anyone, it doesn't matter, but same question.
You can talk about it, you can try and point toward it, and at the end of the day, it's our own direct experience, so only we can discover that for ourselves. There's literally nothing that I could do for anyone other than to continue to encourage them to be radically curious, because that is definitely, absolutely mandatory.
I like that radical curiosity. That's well put. Well put. Jamin, go ahead. Take it.
Yeah. So I would say yes and to what Gavin just said. But in addition to being radically curious, I think we can take a step and be not necessarily the first ones, but among the first ones to spray paint in the sky. Hello, universe. Here we are, and here's our vector. And feel free to join us, right? Either in this conversation or in your own conversation with the same vector, or with your own conversation in a different vector. But can we agree that we're all part of the same universe, right? And so I was thinking how, certain people, certain groups might agree with certain elements of Dutch 42, but maybe they don't like that it has the word Dutch in it because the Dutch were colonizers and they did all kinds of terrible things and whatever, right? So let's say they become purple hair 42, hashtag, great. At least you're in the game and in the universe. I don't care if your vector is completely orthogonal to ours, as long as we agree that we're part of the same universe. and that there's something emergent from all of us recognizing that we're part of the same universe, right? And so from hashtag Dutch42 emerged a notion of this cloud of hashtags that anyone can create their own hashtag and throw it into the cloud. And the cloud could be called the heavenly hashtags. Why? Because each one is pointing towards their idea of the heavenly, right? The telos, passing the feather.
Gavin, I don't know if you want to respond to that, but Brett, I feel like you're reading my brain too. But Gavin, go ahead and then pass it to Brett if you like, or just pass it to Brett directly. Go ahead, Gavin. Go ahead.
Yeah. So maybe I can communicate more clearly. I'm not talking about anything physical. I'm talking about beyond physics and like the journey of discovering your true nature is not about ideas anymore. And it's not about concepts and it's not about relativity. I'm talking about that we're articulating and converging on something that is absolute and not like again, you can call it whatever and you can paint your hair whatever color you want and you can express it however you please. And at the end of the day, it all converges on exactly the same thing. And so I want to highlight that if we're pointing at something, it might be the top of a mountain and we're all on different sides of the mountain and we're all different stages of climbing up that mountain. And maybe some of us have experienced more toward the top. And so we are able to draw back and say, hey, this is kind of what the path looks like between like what I've experienced and what you've experienced. Hey, maybe we're on completely different sides of the mountain. And so we have this weird impasse of experience, but we tend to, as you experience the world more and more, things tend to operate in spirals. So maybe we're revolving around the mountain as we're headed up it. I'm saying this because I want to highlight the nature of how, if we examine what is true about the world, it has integrity and that it will ultimately be the exact same conclusion. Everyone can experience what's true for themselves because whatever's not true can't sustain itself. So if we're talking about these different modes of describing it, they're all going to converge on exactly the same thing. Is what I'm really trying to highlight is that truth is absolute and it is singular.
I have a thought on that, but Brett, are you ready or no?
Go ahead.
So just because Gavin and I had talked about it before this, and there's been conversations, underneath the recording that we've been having. I do make the query that, or I present the query that if that was axiomatic in a way that is axiomatic, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now. So there is some puzzle here, like Victor and Gavin and Brett know that I've said this a long time. And I think I've made the joke to Jamin and Marco too. But if it was as simple as like I can just go meditate under a tree right now, or whatever, and there's world peace, then we would have done that already, right? So there's some kind of integration in all of these conversations, and I'm gonna say right now, it's not a point of pride. It's not about being hubristic. I count you all as pretty much the smartest people on the planet, as far as I can understand, or some of the smartest people on the planet. At least some of the most authentic people on the planet in terms of how we're having this conversation. And I mean, this is only like episode 3, and I understand last week I had to leave, so I apologize again for that on record, but there was something going on at home. But as we're having this conversation now, and we're capable of having this conversation, it very much seems to me that we are being presented with a puzzle that perhaps only, I'm sorry for the alliteration, but only the possible co-creation of this group or groups like us might be able to solve. Victor, I don't know if you want to speak on that, but I feel
Yeah, Mike, I think like my mind, I think you're pointing at something that like was coming up for me too, right? I'm reminded of Gavin, something that you said in a previous session. Uh, and it was something like, you know, there's nothing that says that like we cannot achieve like and like global mass scale enlightenment, uh, and that's like so true. And yet, it's not true right now. And it may be that like we are like already sort of like on the past the event horizon and like singularity attractor space where like that's just gonna happen. Or I think Mike, what you're pointing at is like maybe that's not yet true. Maybe part of the reason why we're even bothering to like get together and point at something like collective superintelligence is because like it's a it's like a phase change that may not happen, but for the fact that the collective human intention like finds a vector like you're saying, Jamin, and like recognizes the wisdom in that particular vector of humanity and makes the conscious choice to like move towards it. Like we've talked about like what that looks like, given that humans are sufficiently diverse so as to like not have the same language, not have a common ontology, not have a shared grammar, not even like have a shared mental model of what existence is, right? It's there's enough of that variety that each of that everyone is going to like when they like to your point like looks towards the mountain, see a different path, or even the summit may look different, but like yeah, so what seems true to me is like, right, um if we all want to be like creating the conditions for us collectively as humanity to like be moving uphill, then like that's about communicating, or like enough people pointing in the same direction and enough people like choosing to be like, oh wait, like I'm going I should I want to go that way too. So like so the idea that which for me in my direct experience remains merely an idea as opposed to my direct lived experience. Uh, I do. I have no reason to believe that that there's a like currently we're in past the event horizon already. I think that it requires um, like folks to be collectively pointing in that direction. And I think that like that maybe we can, maybe part of what we can achieve is enough fingers pointing into the direct into that common direction so that it then becomes kind of like like everybody drawn up the mountain or something.
I'm
Thanks,
gonna
guys.
lower my hand for a second and pass it to Gavin and then James afterwards. But Gavin, go ahead.
I mean, uh, whatever is true right now. And so, independent of what we say or do, that still will be so. And so, I, are we going to make it like the WAGMI thing? I don't know. It appears to be very like an elevator in my experience, where I'm like, whether I choose to push or pull or stay or go to the right or left, like just keeps on unfolding. And like it's not like 9.82 meters per second square is true on this hemisphere and not on that hemisphere. Like there seems to be like, it just is how it is. And I can't really, if we sat in silence for the next 8 years or 20 years, my intuition tells me that whatever is meant to happen will still happen. And so I don't
got
know.
Victor to raise his hand when you're ready, Gavin.
Sure.
Oh, partially, I'm being proactive about putting my hand up because
Oh,
it bugs
no
the
worries, but I feel like
because
this might be like a nice back and forth too, because I understand
because
where Gavin's going because we just
yeah,
talked about
cool,
it,
cool.
but I also
Yes.
understand why you might want to raise your hand too. And Brett's raising his hand. Okay, you
Nice.
guys pass the feather as you will, and I'll do the referee job as I can. But yeah, go ahead.
Nice. I wanted to put a period on the end of that sentence. I'm putting my hand up because it bugs me to be to be directly prompted. So so I'll put my hand up when I want to talk. So the thing that I wanted to share, Gavin, is like actually I I I won't say that it's my direct experience, but I will say that like it is a completely body felt intuition that what that you are pointing towards the truth that I am aware of, that the universe is drawn like to a point of collective of you know awakening or singularity or the what is it the great state attractor at the end of time or and I'm a human and I fucking love humans. I think humans are amazing. And I don't think that it's granted that humans like get to continue to move towards it. I think that's like a choice. And I think that that is the kind of collective choice that like we are that I feel like we're trying to help uh create, right? So like I think you're right. But like as a human, I want to be I want to be on board that train. And I don't think that's granted.
Gavin, respond. Go ahead. And when you guys are ready, pass it to Brett and then Marco. But go ahead, Gavin.
Just like the laws of physics thing, I think I have an absurdum reductum. Once you have direct experience of something as absolutely true, like something seems patently obvious to you, you can't unsee that, is what I'm trying to say. And so, in a sense, there's a ratcheting effect. The more conscious you become, you can't unconscious yourself, is what I'm saying. And so, reality
that's on record, Gavin. Yeah.
keeps marching towards what is true, what is absolutely independent of everything, all the noise, like cut out all the noise and all of the hearsay and all the belief, what's absolutely so. And if you keep on marching toward that, there is an inevitability.
And again, I'm saying that I agree with you, Gavin. And I from in having enough context with you, like I have complete trust that like you are not able to unsee what you have seen. You continue to point at it because it is true for you. And I am also like starkly aware that it is not true for everyone. So it would bum the fuck me out, right? To see like Gavin be like, but 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 why the hell are things getting worse? Why are they continuing to get but when I know what the truth is that the universe is moving towards? This fucking sucks, man. Like so I don't want that. And I think and like again, just to restate, it's like completely agreed. I don't think it's given. I want to make sure that like that Gavin is like
If I
totally
may, I
vindicated
want
in
to
that.
throw a wild Brett in here too.
Yeah, we're good. I am complete.
Oh, James has also raised his hand. So Brett, go ahead and then pass it to James, my friend.
On one hand, and it's not the hand that's raised. And it's not this hand. but it's another hand on another hand. Yeah. And not the other hand, just another hand. On another hand, I have no clue what we're talking about, right?
Okay, wait. Pass it to James then, and then he'll reorient you, Brett. Don't worry. James, go ahead. You were following.
I'm not lost. That's like a statement I'm making. I have no clue what we're talking about, really. I mean, it sounds to me like I hear a bunch of people sharing what their perspective is, which is amazing. Like I could do it all day. It's like an orgy or something of some kind. Like it's like an orgy. Like we all, like we said, for the creative agreements, like we all agree to be kind, generous, deep listening, right? And like it all sounds good to me. It all sounds good to me. Even in the statement of like it is what it is. Like that isness to me, using my limited vocabulary, means that like that isness includes people who want to talk about how it's not isness, and people who think that we have to fix things, and people who think there's nothing to fix. It's like that isness is so infinite that it basically kind of includes every point of view that apparently could seem contradictory or complementary or antagonistic. It doesn't matter. It's like that to me what it means to say it is. Like, and somehow I feel like we always end up trying to compare notes and somehow reach some kind of like objective like thing where we're all like, yeah, we all agree. Yeah, it's all the same. It's all truth. Like it's all there. I don't even know that's what I mean. I don't even know what we're talking about. But I tell you this. As Jim Morrison once said, no eternal reward will forgive us now for wasting the dawn. So when we're ready, I'd like to talk about how we're going to implement a first version of this elephant, even if we all call it something else, and we all philosophically and metaphysically explain it in a different way. I don't think it changes the fact that being what isness likes to create technology. Like isness likes the satisfaction of people apparently coming together just as much as isness doesn't even have awareness. So yeah, I'm down for like when it's time to transition into some like operational, for lack of a better word, like operational, artistic, like implement, like let's like do a design sprint for 20 minutes and actually come up with what we want to create.
Job, to be honest, Brett. No, not saying that. Sorry. Finish up. Sorry, not.
I'm all good.
I'm not trying to.
I'm all
you,
good.
James did lower his hand too, so I don't know if James, if you said what James wanted to say, or if James wants to add something to this.
I'm good.
Yeah. No.
Sure,
sorry. Yeah, I just wanted to respond there to what was being said just earlier before Brett. Sorry, Brett. No, we're going back to the other thing again, even though you want
Take your time, James. Take your time, my friend.
But no, I just want to say, like, I understand where Gavin is coming from, and you know, I get what he's saying. You know, if we can't unlearn something, if you learn, we keep, you know, you go forward, you get, and then you get drawn forward again and drawn forward again towards the truth, so to speak, as he's saying, as he said, attracted towards it like gravity, as we mentioned earlier. So, and I get that you know, if that what he's basically talking is what we're, you know, I suppose if you want to look at it that way, he said like if you take out all the noise and you can unlearn something, so you go forward and drawn towards the truth like gravity. I get that. And some kind of singularity event will happen where it'll automatically happen and humanity will have collective super. I get that. I get where Gavin is coming from, but I don't agree. I agree with what Victor is saying. I don't agree. Like, first of all, you can't just, you know, flippantly discredit all the noise, because it's all the noise is what's preventing us from getting to the CSI. I believe that you can't wait for evolution or gravity to pull us there to an event horizon either, especially when we've created such a mess that we have to collectively put our intelligence together to get out of that mess. So we've got urgency behind us as well. So what I believe is that it takes for all of those people on different sides of the mountain, different levels of the mountain, looking towards that one goal, What it takes is the first few people to reach the summit and show the others how to get there. So I believe what Victor is saying is right. We have to have groups like ourselves, and many groups out there that are like ourselves, having these conversations, trying to figure out how do we get to this miracle world that Brett was talking about last week, where every one of us can be who we want to be, live the lives we want to live, be good to each other, be kind to each other, be kind to our environment and all the other species on the planet, and live happy lives, but yet somehow, some miracle, be contributing to the whole. I don't understand how we haven't copped onto it a long time ago. All we have to do is look at colonies, ants or anything else around us. Point is, I don't believe that it's going to, happen by, some force like gravity or anything else pulling us to an event horizon. I believe we have to have a few people behind us pushing us, and a few people in the front saying, this is the way. Oh, hang on a sec. Maybe not. Let's back up and go this way. But eventually we'll get to the summit and we'll pull the rest together.
James, someone's got to row the boat, right?
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I'm saying. Passing the pedal.
Yeah, of course. Marco, go ahead.
Wow. Again, I'm going to preface with I have so much coming together at the same time. I've got pages of notes again now because I just can't hold it all. And I want to just touch on a couple of things like most recently, Brett, you said talking about you want to be whatever it is that does something now is what I heard. And this is like this pervasive energy that's coming into all the different groups I'm in, science groups, spiritual groups, as everybody says, we know so much already. There's certainly more to learn, but now is the time where we need to put things into action, take what we already know and start some action that's moving us towards the greater good where we need to be, or we're going to perish. And I feel that's part of what you were saying is like the talk is great and we can talk forever and I love the talk, but we need to do some action. And then a little farther back, we talk about collective superintelligence, and collective kind of indicates a centralization, and I like the idea of this collective superintelligence is a centralization of knowledge that we can all benefit from. But then we also exist not in our heads and in consciousness. We exist in a 3D physical space on this planet right now, and that's where decentralization comes in, that we're together in separate groups that interact. So we need our own decentralized space, and we use the collective superintelligence, the collective knowledge base, to make our physical spaces sustainable and able to interact with each other, so that we create the good and loving whole that we can be. And with that, I'm going to be complete and pass the feather.
So I will say something that I was going to say before, but Marco just hit upon it. And I wish that Gavin was still here, to be honest, so that, because I wanted him to kind of bounce off this. But so we're at this precipice or this threshold where, everyone who's here, who's spoken to me multiple times, I don't personally align, let's say, with the idea of doing nothing. Brett, you're already reading my brain. Go ahead, man. I'll take it back in a second, but this is great. Go ahead, Brett.
Well, I'm not reading your mind, because like you're reading your mind would be like trying to read Braille in
Fine, I'm projecting to your brain.
The noosphere or something like that. I'm going to throw it back to you. I want you to somehow finish your thought. I will say this. Just to be clear for Marco, I wasn't exactly saying that. Because I personally don't, I'm first personally careful about making a split between things where it doesn't need to exist, i.e., talking about stuff and doing stuff. But what I was saying along the lines of all that was, I'm excited today, right now, about doing something that has a different quality than philosophizing, in a sense, because I think philosophizing is doing something, by the way. Like when you're doing philosophy with your friends, like Pythagoras and Plato or Niels Bohr, hanging out with like in the fucking cafes with Heisenberg and Einstein, and they're philosophizing. People, how dare people say, how dare people in this world say that that's not doing something, but if they would pick up a pencil and write an equation and go to the bank and get some money to build a particle accelerator, that's doing something. No, they're all different qualities of doing something and talking about something. That's a false fucking bullshit dichotomy. And I'm not saying that personally, Marco. I think it's like a virus of misunderstanding that and we're abusing our privilege of making distinction as miracles, as artists, as human beings who apparently have the ability to take undivided wholeness that we're all saying exists, that we know in our bones, that God is real, our consciousness is fundamental, whatever those words we all use. And then we have the ability through language and communication to break that up into pieces and rearrange it and make houses and words and sentences and real houses and computers. Like we have this fundamental, holy shit, how does that even happen? I don't know. So I would share, like, I almost see things like my philosophy is almost more like what Bashar, the channel, says: it's follow your highest excitement. So, like, it's not about for me left or right or doing or being. Like, what I'm wanting the world to do is what makes them come alive, as Howard Thurman said. Because I don't care if you believe in black holes or strange attractors or poverty or veganism or not veganism. I feel like that's the Tower of Babel in concepts. Like, not only do we not understand each other by language, we don't even understand each other by the things we build with language, which is already the Tower of Babel, right? The Tower of Babel was that one language, in a sense, was broken into many languages. So we've taken that a whole 20 layers deeper, like concepts, theories, whatever. It's very confusing. Like, so I don't really care anymore what people believe. I mean, I go where my heart feels good, to be honest. I use my intuition and stuff. Like, I'm not stupid, maybe, but I don't really I'm not interested in validating any particular worldview, except maybe like follow your highest excitement. So yeah, Marco, in this very meeting at 10 p.m., on the 22nd of December, I'm feeling the urge to be creative in a different way. Yes, necessarily than the why of something. And I want to like push some buttons and like get some feedback on something and maybe like write in a document, like I'm having that kind of creative inspiration, just to be clear, and I resonate, Marco, like there is an energy that the whole ecosystem has, but I think we're just frustrated and we're blaming the wrong thing, in a sense. You know what I mean? Like we're blaming talking compared to doing, instead of grabbing the bulls by the horns and saying, this is what I fucking love to do. Like, this is why I'm building a synergy engine. It's not because I care about stranger. I mean, I can explain shit like that. I'm smart. But why do I do what I do? Because I love it. And I want to be around people who love what they do, because I know when they do, even if I don't understand it, it's good for the world. Like, I don't need to understand it.
No, I want you to pass this to Marco before we go to Jamin. But Marco, do you have a response to that? Because it's rare that, well, not rare, it's newly rare that I get to hear you from this response.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, Brett, and that's why I really wanted to say what I felt I heard you saying, and this energy of, and I agree with you. I again, it's this failure of language that I'm feeling more and more all the time to communicate exactly what I'm thinking and how I feel. But yeah, it's not just, no, these are absolutely, this is the most amazing thing, that when I found Zoom in this space where we can meet and we can have the conversations that matter. That's what this space is all about, is having the conversations that matter. And the conversation that matters and that's important is the conversations that each of us want to have, because we're each fucking so important in the big picture, whether we believe we are or not. And that's some people have too little ego, some have too much, and we'll be together, we'll blend and help each other find the middle ground. And yeah, I didn't really mean that it's that we're not doing anything by having these conversations, because this is the catalyst to the physical action. And the feeling is that we have not each been doing enough in the physical world to not just talk about solutions, but actually put solutions into action. So I hope that reframes
Marco, that resonates. Brett, take it and then pass it to Jim when you're ready.
I just want to even, again, super like meta reaffirm Like this is the solution, which I know you know, but even in the language, it's like we don't have to. What I hear from the community, that to me is all red herrings for what we're all really working on, which is somehow lack of faith or doubt or something where like, because I don't resonate with almost 90% of what I've heard tonight in terms of my own worldview, which is there's nothing wrong. There is nothing wrong with this planet. There is no problem, and there is nothing to fix. That's actually like my everyday waking life. Now, just to be clear, that doesn't mean that my highest excitement isn't to create technologies that alleviate suffering. I still, despite everything, this is where Gavin and me might have a slight difference when it sounds like where people read Gavin as saying we don't need to do anything. But if there's isness includes everything. So Gavin's to me could be in his own dogma there. And then that's what people hear when they say, no, we can't do nothing. Like, Victor, no, I'm a human and I want to. And like what I'm saying is, it seems to me in a truly holistic picture, neither one of you were right. Like neither one of you were right. You both had a point of view because that's how fantastic existence is. There's like infinite perspectives. So it must be something deeper than perspective that matters. Like it must be some, like for me, the heart or the love would, again, this is my dogma, like that there's a fundamental layer underneath this excitement of what I want to create.
Brett, it's
Go
like
ahead.
antecedents. No, it's like the foundations of foundations and so on and so forth. Sorry, when you're ready, pass it to Jamin, please.
No, good. I'll pass it to Jamie.
Yeah, I'm just going to tag in one more time here. It's like I love what you said, Brett. I fucking love you as a person. Again, I'm realizing so much more. But this was like I've been in Indigenous talking circles this week, and this came up there too. It's this, and I'm losing the thought, but oh no, I know what it was. It's like your attitude of there is nothing fucking wrong. This is what it's supposed to be. This is what's supposed to be happening right now. And it really struck me the confidence of some of the Indigenous elders that yes, they recognize there are issues in the world and there's suffering to be alleviated, but we're doing the right thing by gathering and discussing it. And that we have to not think of it as there's something wrong that we need to fix, but that there's something right that will come about as long as our actions are always, in our soul, we feel our actions are right. We're doing the right thing for the right reason. Then we can just relax and know it's all going to be okay. And I'm struggling with being in that space. And I appreciate what you just said. That's helping me get there again. And with that, I pass the feather.
Jamin, I believe it's you, my friend.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Great stuff. I want to build off of something that I'm interpreting from what Brett said, which may be different from what Brett said, but like, let's fucking do this, enough philosophizing for the moment, right? And in terms of the quote, follow your highest excitement, I'm going to strike the why from that statement. So if you look at that statement spelled out, there's a Y there, and it's the Y preceding O-U-R, your highest excitement. Why don't we follow our highest excitement? And that's collective superintelligence, because guess what? Within that container, everyone can follow their highest excitement, whether they define they as themselves, me, got to be me. I'm in my own Zoom room, screw you, no one else can come in, and I'm just being me. Great. Follow it. Or our, hey, there's 10 of us that want to get together and do this cool thing. Great. I'm looking at the big our. All of humanity, perhaps all of sentient intelligence, whether terrestrial or way out there, 50 galaxies away or whatever. Let's get together. Let's do this. You want to talk about technology? There is no greater technology than humanity coming together, right, with other sentience, I'll just say, wherever it can be found, and creating collective superintelligence, and then watching what comes out of that giant machinery. Just sit back and watch. It's going to blow your ass away.
Wait, right? Jamin, I think that was a misnomer. I don't want to sit back and watch.
Anyway, okay, that was a misnomer. Sit back and do.
No.
Or stand up and do. but let's do it. So where am I going with all this? What I'm going with this is let's create, I'll just call it the universe party. And our particular vector could be Dutch 42 or whatever the hell we come up with, or it could be multiple vectors. But let's create the universe party, and double entendre intentional, almost like a political party, like a movement. And instead of the block party, let's call it the universe party. But in all meanings, let's party. It's time to party. And so then once we've got that defined, we take that action, whether that's tweeting out with hashtag Dutch 42 or any of the other heavenly hashtags, most of which are to be created, and draft some sort of manifesto that encapsulates this, do a 60-second TikTok video that encapsulates this collective superintelligence and the universe party and all that. And then let's boldly go forward as kind of like the Jehovah's Witnesses of collective superintelligence, ringing the doorbells of other Zoom rooms that seem to be aligned and say, hey, this is what we got to say in 60 seconds. And here's a manifesto that'll take 3 minutes to read. And here's our vector. How about it? You want to join us or not join us, right? Because it's not a matter of joining us, but simply launch your own vector into the universe of the universe party and say, hello, universe, I'm here too. We heard the call from the folks at The Start Is Near. We think it's awesome. And here's our call, right? Or we think that the folks at The Start Is Near, we think they suck, and here's our call. But in any case, frickin' join the universe party or start your own universe party. But let's make it happen. Passing the feather.
Brett, you got this right on time consciousness, so I'll yield to you.
Thank you, Jamin. For better or for worse, I found the kind of thing that was tripping me up in my world, in my worldview, or the thing that creates a bit of tension or whatever words you want to say. I don't want to say disagreement. I don't think that's what it's about. Like it's something I'm not a full yes to somehow, right? For whatever reason. It could be shadowy stuff. It could be wisdom. I don't even know until I say it, right? But I know that something's in me that's like, and I figured out what it is, at least for the moment, which is it relates to what I said earlier about expanding each other's stuff. I feel like there is no way in hell I'm going to create a universal party or some new vision. What I think is the best move, if I'm talking strategically and also evolutionarily, is why not take pieces of the block party, like piece of Vibe Cafe, pieces of Togetherland, and like this other pieces, and like something has to be actually unnamed in a sense and emergent. If we keep trying to create, like name the new emergent thing, and it's like the new whole on level up, and then we put a name on it, it causes that umbrella effect for me, by the way. So this is not a statement of truth, let's say, it's for me, my truth. And it almost becomes this recursive, never ending like shell game that in my experience now, trying to do co-creation and conscious evolution actually has become more of a stumbling block than a catalyzer. Yet in saying that, I think it's because there is an all-win where that new thing that you're saying, let's create the new thing, and it has this hashtag. And I think like what would happen is you will incorporate a lot of that into your piece of the facet that is that emergent thing. But I don't think we need to do a new thing. Like with all of the work you've done with Block Party and like the resources and assets the Block Party has and everyone else, I would like to investigate how we leverage, in the most positive use of that word, each other's pieces in a super all-win way. And then to me, we are practicing collective superintelligence and co-creation by doing that. And it doesn't mean we can't create a new project altogether and say it's going to be this. It's not like anti that or we can't do that. But my spidey sense is telling me, at least let me put this into the field for reflection from others to get their spidey senses about the practicality of implementing something that serves all of our agendas in a sense, like serves all of our agendas. And that would also be a magical thing, like to co-create something that served all of our agendas. would be fascinating in a way. And it would also be a demonstration to the field and to the ecosystem to stop trying to create a new project that everyone blah, 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 because it takes me off my pace, Jamin. That's why. What happens is if we get taken off, it's like I'm trying to make E.T., you're trying to make Raiders of the Lost Ark, you know, someone's trying to make Alien, someone's trying to make Little Shop of Horrors. And like, I don't want to make Little Shop of Horrors. I want to make the vision that God gave me, but I've realized I can't do it alone, by the way, Jamin. So for me, just to have it on record for all of humanity and posterity, the one lesson I learned that's most important about co-creation, the secret sauce, like literally like the patent shit, the secret sauce of co-creation is no matter how amazing any one of us is, and what innovation we ourselves could be responsible for if we were given what we were needed, like creating a new rocket and creating the cure to stuff. And there's people here, like Bucky said, in the future, we won't earn a living because there'll be 1 in 10,000 people who can create innovations that serve the whole world. Like there's, so within each of us is so much genius. But if I don't work with other people, it's like Raiders of the Lost Ark, you're all my age. It's like I'm being put on a shelf in a, this is my metaphor. It's like I'm boxed up and put on the shelf in that big warehouse. And all of that power within me, all of the grace I have and the gift I want to give the world, and I want to see people happy and not suffering. If I don't co-create, I can't actually live that. I can't realize that potential. And for me, that's
what if
the
Brett?
secret
I'm not
sauce
trying to
is.
interrupt you, but what
Yeah.
if we are 1 in 6 or 6 in 60,000 or 7 in 70,000 with Gavin here or something? What if we are 1 in or 7 in 70,000?
Well, I only hang, no, I've got a way better batting average than that, dude. I only hang out with the 1 in 10,000. This is the 10 of 10. And anyone who hangs out is then 12 of 12. I'm all aboard for that. You guys know I have a bigger ego than probably anybody on the planet, really. So I'm 100% behind all that. There's no convincing me. There's no convincing me that we're not the ones we've been waiting for. And everyone has a right as a sentient being to claim that they're the
You've
ones we've
already
been waiting
said
for.
everything I was going to say, Brett. So I want
Yeah.
to pass it to Marco and then pass it back to Jamin. But go ahead, Marco.
I really don't have any words right now. I'm just so full of the love here and the direction we're moving that I'm just speechless in a good way. So I'll just pass the feather back to the circle.
Jamin, if you would like to go, and then I do want to put James on the spot as well. But Jamin, go ahead.
Yeah, I feel like I'm watching a porno movie that has too much, I'll just say too much fluff, right? We're in this scene that just keeps fluffing and fluffing and fluffing. But I know the good stuff is coming because it says XXX on the
I
outside
played
of
bass
it.
guitar for a lot of years, Jamin. I can do the whole like porno jam Seinfeld style or something. Yeah.
So anyway,
And violin.
I'm part of me is waiting for the good stuff, and part of me is just enjoying the fluff because I know when the good stuff comes.
I do want to point this out here, not to interrupt you, Jamin, but I think that these conversations, and again, this is just the third week here in this instantiation. We all have coordination to bring together, but this is important for posterity, like Brett said, because people can. I share this with my family and friends. You know, I share these things in terms of anyone I think who can align with this and become part of this. Yeah, it's important to share. So I mean, I've told you all. I make the joke like I'm playing for keeps. So we got starving Mark, as my mom calls him. She's already talked to Mark, whatever. But you know, Mark's out there in Alberta. Chief Phil, as Marco and I talked about earlier today, probably needs to meet with Mark. Anyways, long story short, because I don't want to interrupt the flow, and to pass it back to you, Jamin, and then to Marco. I think it's important that we have these conversations because it helps others to realize that, first off, as many people have said here today, we're not pretending that we are in control. Or like, yeah, Victor, you're already reading my brain, but let me finish. We're not pretending to be in control, but we are pretending to be participants. Not even pretending. Pretending is the wrong word for that part. But we are trying to engage and actually actively have this conversation. Victor, you're already reading my brain. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. I think
The famous, what I hear
there's
is
no
this. No,
there's
yeah, sorry, Victor, go ahead.
uh yeah, I don't think there's any fluff here. I think this is all really necessary. And I feel like the things that are coming through for me are like, hmm, yeah, well said, Brett. I feel like that there's a there's a version of getting together to get stuff done that's just like awesome. Like, what are we going to do together? And it's the new thing, the shell game that you're pointing at, right? That like there's there's no thing like that other than like the vector, right? And I mean here, like I have no I don't think that the vector is like really much of a question. I mean, I think we're all we're at least in my body, I feel like, oh yeah, we're all walking up the mountain together, and like that walking is directly the stuff that we are doing that we individually are called to do, the thing that we are excited about, like the and I think it's possible for because I've made this transition from being the guy who was working in a corporate job and like was not building what I was really excited about, and in fact was often really confused about like how are there these like passionate people out there in the world? Like I just don't get it because like I don't feel any. To being like, dude, I've got like this thing that I really connect with that I feel like is mine to do, right? That I'm really excited about, and like I love this, the finding the synergies across those, uh, and having that trust that like, well, we're already pointed in the same direction, so it's not like aligning our vectors is like, you know, like like this. It's more like small nudges of like things that we can do, that bring us even more into alignment, that find even more synergy. And so like I think I love for example what we are doing here as an instance of like sort of um I would say like Jamin initiated space for the pursuit of collective superintelligence. Like hell yeah, I'm finding myself like wanting to bring in my stuff that's going to help like to make that happen. It doesn't feel as though I'm taking anything away from what I'm already doing. uh it's just like yet another thing that I can synergize with and align with. So I think
All I was going to add
that's a great
there,
vibe.
Victor, like Brett and I have
Yeah, I'm
talked to Google
complete.
Foo. No, no, not to interrupt. I was trying to help, or not help, but like just to help integrate. Um, as we speak about these things, to me, it becomes so important to recognize and to honor ourselves here, that not many people are having these conversations. Just yeah. And I just want to appreciate, and Victor, honestly, you're right on track. I just wanted to honor you. Um, Jamin or James, I don't know if you want to jump up as well. Yeah, go ahead, James. You're right on time consciousness.
Cheers. Yeah, I mean, um, I'm loving the conversation anyway. For one, anyway, I mean, enjoying it. I mean, tremendously. Like, but it's like Victor just said there in his last part of what he was saying. Like, you know, Jamin's set up this space for us, to try and build collective, super intelligence, human intelligence, whatever way you want to put it. And he's like, yeah, I'm all in for that. It's not as if it's getting in any way of anything. Have my time for other stuff or whatever. It's not interfering with my day. You're well up for being part of this conversation. So in essence, that's what we're putting out there to others as well. You know, we're not asking them to do or anything that's going to put them out of their way or out of. It's for them, as Brett said, for everyone to be able to get up and do what they want to do, be who they want to be. So all it is basically is getting into a conversation that you are interested in because of what you want to be, what you want, you know, who you are and what you want to be with your and what you want to do with your life. It's basically just getting involved in conversations with other like-minded people, but all those conversations hyper-connected, as Jamin says, in some form of a miracle, as Brett says, will create this collective superintelligence between us because of the conversations talking about the important things to us, which basically encompass everything on the planet. Because collectively, the important things to all of us encompass everything on the planet. So, and our well-being. So, you know, in some form or shape, that's how we will gravitate towards that, you know. So that's
thank you, James. Thank you. I don't know if Brett wants to respond to that, or Victor or Jamin, but let's keep going. I will say too, James, I think this is well, Brett, go ahead.
Keep going, Mike.
Well, I mean, you guys have all heard me talk about this for hours and hours. And James, I just appreciate your accent so much. My mom's dad is full born Irish. My dad was actually born in Scotland, not here nor there. But so as we kind of talk about these things and oscillate around actionable agency, let's say, and I really don't like alliteration, so I apologize for alliterating all the time, but somehow it keeps creeping in. Actionable agency. As we have these conversations, certainly my hope is that we are attracting other people that would like to participate in these conversations, especially because we are reporting and broadcasting. We are creating new ways. Marco and I just talked about Chief Phil and the Eighth Fire and all that stuff, that they have translations going on for at least a movie or something. I think Marco had said it doesn't really matter. It's not pertinent to right now, but yeah, you know, distilling these, and I hope we have 100 of these episodes. I hope we have, you know, even the Grand Prix, if we start that, or whatever, or the Grand Prix. Like, there's so many different things that I want to get going with this, but I think this is important to have these conversations because it shows, and I don't like to use this concept, but like proof of concept, the idea that it shows people that loud's not even the wrong word or right word. We are gifted with the opportunity to have these conversations across disparate ideologies or faith or spirituality, whatever we're going to call it. And we talked about creating a new vocabulary, a new lexicon. And I'm hoping that Jamin, you're taking it from me right after this. But the thought is that if we can do it, then other people can do it. Jamin, you kind of have to take that one, my friend.
Yeah. Again, I'm waiting for the good stuff. And I'm going to try to manifest the good stuff here a little bit. So, you know, I've put out a couple ideas what we can do. We can tweet out with our vector and maybe do more Twitter spaces and whatever, because that's a good attractor.
Yeah, the Twitter spaces are already going to happen, Jamin, that's for sure.
And another thing we can do is to be the scouts and reporters, scouting out, boldly, you know, going across the universe, not waiting here on planet Earth and philosophizing, but getting in, building Starship Enterprise, cruising out there across the universe, finding other, you know, collectively intelligent life, and then reporting on it. Right? Maybe tweeting.
Actually, Brett, since this is recorded, Jamin, not to interrupt you, but Brett, since this is recorded, what is the acronym for UFO?
Unnameable Universal United Fractal Organism.
Did you want to repeat that for the audience?
Unnameable Universal United Fractal Organism. So other people are building DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations. My company is building a UFO. Because we travel in style, bitches. And
Yeah.
technically, for the serious out there among you, who I must obviously speak to, or else you don't like me very much, like at the Buckminster Fuller Institute and all the super serious people with PhDs and all that stuff. Spaceship Earth, go look it up in Wiki. No one has a problem with that term. All I'm saying is even the great Bucky can be upgraded a little bit. So understanding Spaceship Earth, which is not getting rid of it, but building on that concept, making it even more powerful and more expansive. Think of Spaceship Earth as an unnameable, universal, united fractal organism. And understand, as physics are also showing, which is a intuition most people don't have. It's hard. I don't either until I thought about it. You have to remember from the physics point of view, if you buy into that, like this planet is traveling through space. It's being pulled by like the sun because of apparently all those rules. People would argue with me, but just for the sake of the current paradigm, the sun creates gravity. So we're kind of being pulled like a sink in a drain, like water in a drain. And then that sun is being pulled by a greater sun and a black hole. And probably there's some central black hole and then a central holonically, like nested, like Russian dolls. That's why we have
don't have to do this all today, Brad. I understand where you're going. Yeah.
So like Spaceship Earth, it's amazing. We're on a vehicle transversing.
Okay, let's bring
ocean.
this back. So redefine UFO for Jamin and then pass it back to Jamin.
It's just a vehicle for co-creation.
But you called it again.
Oh, unnameable to account for the fact that we shouldn't argue over the words. Universal on account for it's more than just this planet. United in terms of unity and co-creation, fractal organism. Being that it's alive and it's made of many parts that are really one thing looking like others.
Jamin, take it back, my friend. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no. This is all cool. I'm still kind of waiting for the good stuff. So imagine, since we've got a picture of Victor on the sofa.
It can't all be done in one day, my friend.
I've got good stuff. I've got good stuff. I'm going to give you the good stuff right now. But let me just be clear. But isn't fluffing blowjobs? Or no? Is that what fluffing is?
I think I used the wrong term. Let's just call it drama.
Okay, hold on.
Drama.
Jamin, I'm going to do this. No, it's for the record. It's on record. Fluffing in pornography is the idea that someone gets someone half hard before they start their scene.
Okay. Right, because then you would want the good stuff.
Yes.
Because then you'd want the good stuff. Right. So I was wrong. Because if it was blowjobs, I might be like, I could do that for a while.
No.
Like there's no good stuff.
You ready for the big show.
Okay. So I want to be clear on that. So for me, as a way to be the change you want to see and embody and bootstrap Victor, I know you'll get this. I'll explain it to everyone else. If it doesn't quantify or Victor, you give it a shot. Next Friday, because remember last week I said, wouldn't it be awesome if like my friends at GaiaNet and my friends at Design Science Studio all came to this one Zoom, but then they went straight into Breakout and did their own thing. And it was just this idea of like Unify, which Adam Apollo is doing tonight, I think. Like Unify is doing
Let's just not make too much work for
global
Victor
meditation.
Marco, but yes, understood.
Yeah. So next Friday, Victor, I think me and you should be in a breakout room where we're working on the implementation of this instead of reaffirming what it is. And Jamin, you should go either hop in and out or fully come in, but it's like a room where we're only actually, and if we all get the urge, like the law of 2 feet, if any one of us gets bored, then go back to another room and go back to like philosophy.
You guys know me. I'll just go for the smallest room. Like I'll find the people. Yeah. And then you guys handle the big. Yeah.
So for me, that's the good stuff. Like next week, we can already maybe start like fractalizing into places of interest and creating some transcripts, even from a couple of them, Victor, and seeing if we can get everyone in the main group, like the block party itself, to get the report of all the rooms through AI and a synthesis, like the AI saying, here's what it could be like with all, I don't know, we can just do a little experiment. But what I meant was next week, that would be me doing the good stuff. It would be actually following the template that I was saying other people should do. So before I get GaiaNet and Design Science Studio people to do this, maybe like we can do that. That's part of the good stuff for me. Because it's just
Victor, I don't know if you want to speak on that right away, but you can go ahead and then pass it to Jamin. Go ahead, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, uh, like all things fair, like the good stuff probably looks like uh, the 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 steps taken that go from where we are now with 7 total participants to like Friday where there are more than that, and then Friday where there are more than that, and Friday where there are more than that. Like that's like I think I see a nodding head, so I think that's resonant with Jamin as to what he's pointing out with the good stuff. So yeah, uh, I think that like I'm pretty clear on why I want to be here doing this. I'm pretty clear on like what this is, and I'm pretty clear on like what um moving closer to it looks like as opposed to moving away from it. And so to me this is like, yeah, okay. Do you wanna jam and like build some of what's going to make line go up in terms of number of rooms or number of people? Uh, then like we can totally do that. Fuck around, find out. And yeah, Brett, like that's a cool jam. I'm totally down for like putting a couple of hours or putting 2 more hours into building it into building.
When you're ready, go pass it to Jamin, Victor.
I'm complete. Feather back.
Awesome, thanks. Yeah, no, yes, and I'm all for that. That all sounds great. And then, but here's an kind of an upgrade on the idea of getting more people to come and have their Friday meetings at the block party, which I am all for, by the way. But some people may, you know, see that as a threat. That no, the block party's trying to become too big. Let's beat them down like lobsters crawling over other lobsters and pulling out the one that's about to break out of the can. Um, let's in addition to or instead, find these other meetings that already exist that are sufficiently like us that self-identify as part of this universe and have, even a roughly similar vision or just enough overlap in vision that we can identify them, maybe take a field trip to their room, invite them to take a field trip to our room, do more cross-pollination and hyperlinking, whether it's with transcripts and AI or just visiting their room, for crying out loud. Hey, how you guys doing? We're from The Start Is Near, and here's some links to some podcasts that we've done recently and blah, blah, blah. And let's start to get together. Right. And one thing we can do is start to build a map, just a simple map with links and from this time to this time in either in universal time zone language or Pacific time. I don't give a shit. Those are all details. But let's build a map of those groupings within this emergent universe that declare themselves to be part of the universe. And fine, maybe we don't need a manifesto or anything. Maybe it's just kind of like one of those things.
No, this is exactly it. It's build the co-creative whiteboard or something, or go build the co-creative mind map or something.
But start to map out these, settlements in the universe, settlements of collective sentience in the universe. Here's a mapping of the settlements that all exist. I like that scene in The Empire Strikes Back where they're like, wait a second, we see this generator over here on this ice planet. Maybe that's them. My lord, there are so many uncharted settlements out there. This could be, just some rogue group of XYZ. It's not necessarily the rebels that we're looking for.
You said XYZ. That's hilarious, Jamin. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, let's start to create the universal map, the map of the universe, the map of the heavens, right? And anyway, that's
if I may, Jamin, this is actually right on time consciousness. I don't know if we want to go around the room. I know that I don't know if you guys do, but I listen to the recording sometimes, and I feel like coming up on the 2 hours here is probably the perfect time to stop for posterity, but we can also talk afterwards. If we want to go around the room and kind of crash our planes together or whatever it is, crash our UFOs, let's please do that. I mean, we're going to broadcast next week anyways, so Victor, go ahead if you're ready.
Yeah, love the map idea. Love totally, Jamin. I think what you're talking about looks like an invitation and being discoverable, and that invitation can be to join, can be to, or come here, can be to uh, like needs to be an invitation towards something. So if you'd like to get together and like hash out that invitation and talk and uh, decide how we want to implement making that invitation available, either for like us individually directly to present to the folks. Awesome. It's like us creating a page that makes the invitation like discoverable on the internet. Like can do that. Let's go. I agree. I think it's not like an either or, it's a both and it probably begins with the invitation.
You raised James's hand as well. James, go ahead, please.
Yeah, cheers. Yeah, loving again, like loving all the comments. I think all of the above, anyway, as well, from what I heard there in the last 20 minutes or so. Yeah, definitely. I think what Jamin was saying as well, because we have tried, we called it going on field trips, going off into different other conversations that have advertised their space and the conversation. The door is open basically for anyone to come in. So we joined them and introduced ourselves as a group and what we're up to. So yeah, and what you were saying there, Victor, I think it's best if we have a a defined description of what it is we're offering or what journey we're on. Let's take it back to we're all heading to the up the same mountain. So let's do the field trip, and we're heading up the mountain. We know where we're heading, and those that we meet along the way, we explain who we are, what we're up to, and perhaps take a few along with us, on the journey. We in the meantime, yeah, definitely advertising what we're doing as well as best as well, because we can't expect everybody to just come across this video. So I was only saying to Jamin the other night, I loved what Brett said there, the tail end of what Brett was saying last week. He finishes off with, it's like some kind of a miracle. You get it there on last week's podcast anyway. But like make some like 60, 30, 90-second TikTok videos, put them out there, get people's curiosity going, like, what is this conversation about? What's he talking about? It's an idea anyway, like for the advertising.
No, absolutely. It's something that we've talked about, James, that you don't necessarily know about yet, but that's right on time consciousness. Okay. I will just say, Jamin, Marco, James, Victor, Brett, Gavin in spirit, because he had to drop out. Is there any closing remarks? 'Cause I really do like the bookend of like the 2 hours in terms of recording of the hour and 45 minutes. And then we can talk afterwards as we can, but it feels aligned. Jamin, it's up to you then, my friend. Or James, go ahead. If you've got please go ahead, James.
Well, I'm just going to say, given the time of year that's in it and everything else, and what we're trying to achieve here, the fact that we're trying to achieve, all of us reach the final destination together. You know what I mean? And to have that life, that miracle that Brett refers to, and we're in the time of miracles. So I just want to wish everyone a happy Christmas and a prosperous and, God willing, a peaceful New Year for the future for all of us. God bless.
Thank you, James. Jamin, go ahead, my friend.
Yeah, I love our progress today. I'm super, super psyched. I've got to head out in a few minutes because I've got a meeting across town. But otherwise, I would be so game to just stay and jam. And I hope you all, whoever can stay, will stay and jam some more. Yeah, I love that we're now talking about concrete actions and things that we can do to move us toward the goal, whatever that goal is. And I think we've done a brilliant job today articulating the goal or cluster of goals or however you want to see it. So anyway, I'm super psyched, so grateful for you all. Love you all so much. And I love everyone who's listening and watches this video. Please keep watching and please join the block party. go to radish.org, and on the homepage, there's a permanent link to the block party. We meet every Friday for 24 hours, starting at 7 a.m. Pacific, and just love, love, love. Can't wait for more. Thank you.
Strength on the journey well, everyone. And I'm sure I'll talk to you all soon.